Hey, welcome to the Articulate Ox podcast, where artists talk about the art that made them artistic. I am your host, Soma79. Thank you so much for joining me today. My guest today is Mike Hazel, and the topic that we're talking about is Jean-Michel Basquiat. So Mike is a pretty great artist in his own right. He paints, he draws, he's a hip-hop artist, he raps, so check out his stuff on Spotify and check out his social media, all that stuff. I was super glad that Mike suggested we talk about Jean-Michel Basquiat because he's somebody who's sort of been around my artistic sphere for a long time. I'm familiar with his work. I knew a little bit about him. I'm a big fan of Warhol, and there's crossover there, so it's hard to know about Warhol, don't know about Basquiat, but I feel like I didn't know as much as I should or as much as I could, and just the opportunity to learn more about Basquiat, to watch some documentaries, to study his art a little bit and talk to Mike about it, it really enriched me a lot. And I know Basquiat is somebody who's it's hard not to be influenced by him, I think. And I don't know, I guess I'll do my best to do that in a good way and not a bad way, but I'm better for it for having a better understanding of who Basquiat was. So hope you enjoy the conversation with Mike. Definitely check out all of his stuff, and yeah, all right, peace. Hey, welcome to episode 15 of the Articulate Ox podcast, where artists talk about the art that made them artistic. My guest today is artist Mike Hazel. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing pretty well, Sunday morning, just waking up.
Oh, yeah, you're lucky. It's already 4 o'clock here. It's almost 4:20 here, which is ironic because we're talking a little bit about these rolling papers that you helped make with some of my art on it.
Yes, sir.
The topic you want to talk about today was artist Jean-Michel Basquiat, who, if you don't know who he is, then you're probably living under a rock somewhere. It's funny, in the past, I since we talked about doing this, I've been watching a lot of Basquiat documentaries and stuff like that, and just looking around my house, I found this has been on my walls for years. And I never realized that it's the poster from the Warhol Basquiat exhibit.
Yeah,
it's like 7L esoteric. And then I was watching the Tonight Show last night, and Dave Bautista was on it, and he had Basquiat crown tattooed right below his ear. And it's crazy, man, everywhere. So I'm rambling, man.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So what's going on? Let's talk a little bit about your art and Basquiat. What that means to you? What he means to you?
For sure. Well, I could tell you, like, when I first discovered Basquiat, it was actually looking at an Andy Warhol documentary, and then I saw something on the suggested on the side on YouTube, and I was like, all right, let me check this out. And I'm seeing some like street artists, which it wasn't really in the normal format that I seen artists, because at the time I'm like taking art class in high school, probably my senior year. So like I'm usually seeing artists like Matisse, Monet, like Gorgon, like all these type of people. And so like when I'm seeing Basquiat, I'm like, yo, this is crazy, because this dude is drawing like pretty loose, like really loose, and like drawing on everything, like on pieces of like wood from the street, on tires, and like I saw that, and I used to be really detailed with my work. So seeing him do that, and then becoming seeing that, like, let's say he worked with the likes of Andy Warhol, to me it was he became successful in doing that type of style. It kind of opened my eyes that I didn't really have to be so detailed, hyper realistic. I can break loose, and I actually started working with oil pastels from that point on.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I had a very similar experience with Warhol. When I was in my high school art class, we had to do, I think, a project on some famous artist, but everybody was choosing these people who had been dead for 100 years. And it's funny, it was people they talk about, oh, in their time they weren't appreciated, but now we know that they're geniuses. And then you look at people like Warhol and Basquiat, who still, there are people in their time that were totally unappreciating them, but we know them to be geniuses. And I watched a documentary about him, and they were interviewing some crusty old dude talking about him, and he was like, well, his actual art, it really didn't, it basically said that his actual art, if you take away his identity and stuff like that, his art contributed nothing. And I'm like, you have to be out of your goddamn mind.
Yeah, because of all the detail that he put in there too. Like this man, like he basically documented his journey through like the times that he was living, not even just on the historical figures, but even just like he would be like reading a book real quick, and you could see that inspiration on a piece like somewhere cut up in the collab. So it's kind of cool. Like, or the words, he would take some words from a quick thing that he would read. So, and it's like you can actually educate yourself through history, if you just peep and see who these people are that he's writing about. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and they would talk too about how he would have words crossed out on the paintings, and the point of that was to draw even more attention to them, because if it's crossed out, somehow that's more interesting than the thing you're supposed to see, and it's totally true.
Yeah, to me, I feel like that just like brings your eye to be like, dang, why is that word crossed out? You know, like
Yeah, yeah. And there's so much emotion in what he does as well. And he's one of those artists that I think the really, I would say, uncultured could look at and go, oh, my 4-year-old could do that. But they have no idea. It's this, there's way more going on there than I think is really on the surface level. And especially coming out of the time that he did Brooklyn, he was active from like 78 to 88 in Brooklyn. It's the time where punk and hip hop was really, invading that and just coming
the
out of that part of the
Genesis.
world. Yeah. And he was right there in the middle of it. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's kind of funny how he was so linked with Fab Five Freddy, and then that
yes.
man goes on to being like the MTV, like even going to the West Coast. You know, like I know Fab Five Freddy for that the NWA interview that they on the car or something.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I seen him with Basquiat, I was like, what? Like, you know, when I was younger, I was like, yo,
Right.
this is crazy. Like,
Yeah, that
yeah,
scene was not, because Basquiat dated Madonna for a while, which is
yeah,
also kind of crazy to think about. Like,
yeah. I be telling people that it's like, yo, that's, this man was right there.
yeah, I know Madonna, him, Dennis Rod. Didn't she date Dennis Rodman, or maybe I'm thinking of somebody else?
I
She,
know Tupac. She like, I'm
yeah,
pretty
Tupac.
sure Tupac.
Yeah, Sean Penn. I mean, it's sick. I guess life's good when you're Madonna. Um, but then again, some of the stuff she does now, whatever. I'm not gonna trash her. But
Yeah, it's all good.
yeah, it's nuts, because that was a time where I actually did a different interview this morning, and this came up a little bit too. That it was a time where there was really a lot of different cultures really mixing in one area, like the CBGBs. There was Basquiat selling paintings to Deborah Harry from Blondie, and Andy Warhol, famously gay man. And there's a time where the media, I mean, the media really loves to separate us. They love to give us reason to paint people in a very particular light, like angry black man, or like fey gay man, or whatever like that. But this was a time where everybody was really together, and it wasn't like race was ignored, but there was a real melting pot of what I guess America was supposed to be. And it was a time where you could actually afford to live in New York City as an artist, which seems insane now.
Yeah, it seemed like a mix of culture, like what they call like the melting pot. It seemed like it was really going on, and it's kind of crazy. Like even Keith Haring, another artist that we know today, he was like right there, right beside them, you know, and it's just kind of interesting. But it's cool to look back on, and I'm not gonna lie, to take from that, I'm like, all right, let's see the stuff that we're doing today and just kind of keep doing it, but just looking at them people as the models, you know, they definitely established a culture that I feel like we live and breathe like today sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny too, because so when we talked before about how the art that sort of probably up until maybe the 40s and 50s, it was, they were getting to the obviously people like Van Gogh and Impressionists, where things were getting a little less like not photorealistic, but that sort of style that we saw for many years, of the way figures were drawn and portraits were drawn and landscapes were drawn. And then when you got into the 70s, you started getting, it was a lot of canvases with just like straight lines in it. And then eventually there would be canvases that were just white hanging on a wall.
Yeah,
And
that abstract expression, that
yeah,
expressionism, that abstract, you know. Yeah,
it's
it went from
basically like,
expressionism to abstract, like
yeah.
complete.
And then it was being a statement on the abstract. And at that point, like, okay, we're back to a blank canvas. And that was almost the perfect time for people like Warhol and Basquiat to sort of come in, because especially with a lot of the stuff you see Basquiat do, he uses a lot of white space. And, a lot of artists struggle with doing that because the end result looks unfinished. But with
Yeah,
him, if it does look unfinished, it does in a very artistic way, like almost like he's maybe even commenting on the idea that a lot of this stuff remains unfinished and thoughts remain unfinished. And, maybe I'm looking more into it because I just watched a bunch of documentaries saying what a genius he is. But
Uh,
it's all right there in the painting.
that's pretty interesting because I remember when I was coming up and they were like, "Yeah, man, you can't have any negative space on the piece," and I'm like, "Dang, that's great." I mean, and it really has kind of formed my art to where like, all right, let me make sure the whole background is covered in a way. So that's kind of that's interesting that you bring that up.
Yeah.
And then even like in times where I kind of have played with like just keeping it white, but and just kind of making my figure more so be the thing that stands out. But yeah, it's just kind of crazy, yeah,
Yeah.
that you brought that up.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your art. How long have you been like what are your favorite mediums to work with? How long you been doing it for? Like what do you love about
Um,
it?
so like I guess my favorite medium right now is oil pastel. It's a pretty easy medium, and it also oil paints and oil pastels to me provide texture, and I'm able to be like a little loose with them. um like I like kind of the fact that you could see the brushstroke with the my style. So oil pastels kind of help me do that stuff in my room, whereas oil paints you have to have like turpentine,
Yeah.
you have to have a place that you're willing to like, you don't mind it getting painted on. And yeah, so I've had to like slow down on more so painting. And oil pastels has been helping me do that. But yeah. And I guess like I've started this journey like from art. I used to really want to be a cartoonist,
Same.
probably watching like the Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z stuff, and and drawing that too, like just kind of my first figures, drawing Pokemon like little figures, and even Goku and stuff like the Super Saiyan thing. And then yeah, just trying to advance from that. And like even like honestly, even when I went to high school, I thought I was gonna still be on that path. So I like applied to art scholarships and stuff. And then like yeah, so I've always been on that. And like even drawing like just drawing in general with graphite. And like how I said, I used to be really trying to get stuff to look realistic. So I would I used to trace a lot, and then I got to a point where I would probably have the image beside me and try to look at it and draw it, um and try to draw it perfect. And that's kind of how I like developed that aspect. But yeah,
I did the
that's
exact
the
same
little
thing. I really wanted to be a cartoonist. I mean, I'm probably a little older than you. I was like super into Garfield as a kid and like the
oh
Far
true.
Side. And I would just in like Ninja Turtle comics and I would just literally trace them until my hand got comfortable with making those movements. Then you like move it to the side and go, all right, do I have the mental coordination? And the thing that the biggest mistake that young artists make is they push too hard on the pencil and they make lines you can't erase. And that's the one thing I wish I could go back and scream myself when I was a kid is like just lift it up a little bit because
Yeah, be a little lighter. Yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
it's
how I
it's
was too.
yeah, it's almost like when you try to write like a sign on poster board and you start with a huge letter and then by the end you have no space and they're tinier and then the
Yeah,
next line do the exact same thing. That was with me. I'd draw a really deep line first and try to erase it and it would leave the thing there the whole time and I was like,
yeah,
oh,
it'll leave a
next
mark, and you're
yep,
like, dang, bro, like
next time I
I
did the
can't.
exact same thing over and over again.
That's too funny. That's really the tribulation of that.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
yeah, so that's
So
kind of how like it developed. But yeah.
yeah. So you mentioned you've got a character that you've been working on. Is that what we see behind over your shoulder? Or?
Yeah, so this character right here, I've developed him probably prior to me moving to Oakland, so about like 2 years ago, like during the little COVID epidemic and all that. I like honestly one of my art, I took art classes at that time at LACC, and my art teacher, she drew the basically the basic way that you draw a face you see in all the drawing books. And I'm not gonna lie, I never did that. Like I used to always skip the drawing book and just go to the main figure and then just trace it and then just try to draw it. So when I saw her do that, because I had to do it basically to draw like a self-portrait. And I saw her do it, and then I started doing it a little bit on my own side pieces, and I kind of just liked how, oh yeah, I can actually get the basically the type of depth or perspective that I was looking for because of those lines. So I started basically drawing this character and drawing like particular features, and I'm really into rhythm and repeating things. So I kept repeating it like on different other pieces and kind of keeping similar motifs. So like changing the color of the hair, changing the color of the eyes, and even the lips. If it's like a piece with here, I'll show you an example, but like if it's a piece of a couple of them like
Yeah.
on the piece, the lip color will even be different, and like no eye color will be the same, no hair color will be the same. And the piece I just showed you on the paper pack, like that was the original. They never had bodies. So maybe a year ago I started drawing bodies on them, and like you'll always see them with like a gold chain, like they'll probably be like always like melanated. But it's kind of funny because when I was young, I never could draw like a brown person because like I was drawing with pencil, so like that would be removing my the marks that I was making for detail on pencil.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of cool being able to do that now. And but yeah, those are the things I like always implement, like the gold iconography, to going back to like Egyptian people, to like now the rappers, and now just normal people on the day to day, just kind of also showing us in the form of like royalty or of rich heritage,
Yep.
even if it's not like too glossy. Like he don't got a mink coat on, he has a
Right.
graphic
Right.
t-shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to be from Wakanda to like, fully. But like, I mean, the mention the thing about royalty, that crown comes back to a lot of Basquiat's work, and
The
that was,
Basquiat
yeah,
motif.
yeah,
Yep.
that was my understanding of where that sort of came from, is the idea of black royalty,
It
and
definitely.
I have to assume the Biggie Smalls crown had to have been
Oh,
that. I
it's
mean,
true.
that was Basquiat inspired, I'm sure. I don't know who was the first person to put that all together. Actually, I think I just saw I just saw an article about that person. But yeah, I mean, also from Brooklyn.
That makes very much sense. Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know that I mean, there probably were calling rappers King of New York prior to Biggie. I mean, I'm betting maybe Big Daddy Kane or someone like that, but I don't remember hearing, because I was like maybe 17 when Biggie died. I think it was like 97. So like I don't remember them referring to rappers before anybody as the King of New York. So I mean, someone could correct me on that, but I mean, that would be kind of interesting if that was tied back to Basquiat too, if he was the first one and it was because of the work the painting and stuff. I might be fucking up the time order there, but
Hey, I mean,
someone's fact
you
checking.
might be right though, because I watch a lot of hip hop documentaries, and they talk about how like Nas used to be talking about that, who is the king of New York. Like he
Yep.
would bring in that conversation to rap. But Biggie definitely was like on that too. So like it's just kind of interesting. They probably did pop up right around that time.
Yeah.
And Basquiat probably was a little like, I mean, he's like a little older than Jay-Z. So, and coming from Brooklyn, that same area, same neighborhood, they definitely seen the crown.
Yeah. I just saw too, and I think this was maybe a couple of years ago, but Beyonce, I believe, bought Jay-Z a Basquiat for $35 million, which I don't know if that was
That's
before
crazy.
or after the elevator fight, but that's it's amazing because he said in one of the documentaries, I mean, he started selling stuff for a few $1,000s, and he started his career in 78, probably didn't start selling until I'd guess the early 80s seriously. And then as time went on, I mean, he had a show where he sold out everything in one night. I'm guessing he probably walked away with 6 or 7 figures in the 80s, which
Man,
Lord knows what that is now. But
they say that sometimes, like in this one apartment, like he used to stay at somebody's apartment, and like he would be finding like money, and they could
yeah,
still find money in books and stuff. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Like he not even here no more, and like
yeah,
that's years ago, bro. Been traveled
they're
the
still
world,
finding
finding
it.
money from New York shows. Like,
Yeah. But it's like it's literally the epitome of the metaphor of having so much money you don't know what to do with it. Because literally
Yeah.
he's like, I don't even know where to put it. Like, and it's that's a wild, obviously he passed away young at the age of 27, as way too many brilliant artists do. Who
Yeah.
knows? It's pretty remarkable how much he left behind, considering how long I think he left behind over 1,000 paintings and over 1,000 drawings, and
Yeah, I
um,
saw that today, like over like 2,000
yeah,
pieces. So like that definitely.
it's wild. I don't know, man. Have you ever get a chance to see one in person?
Yeah, definitely. My first time actually was at the Ogden in New Orleans. It was like a free show, and they had like some of his pieces that I think they were like King. It said King Zulu on it, and they were like big blue background pieces, and they would have like small little faces on them, and it was actually more. It seemed like it was before he was getting to where he was like really breaking up everything and everything, but I think it said he just took a trip to New Orleans to the Bayou, and he had did some pieces while he was there. So I saw that one that says Zydeco. It was like pretty big, and it's funny because going back to where I found out he would just be seeing things and painting them. When I lived in New Orleans, I would always see that word Zydeco, and I'm from the East Coast too. I never saw that word in my life. So like to see that he put that on a painting, it showed me, all right, bro, like seeing he
Yeah,
took some inspiration from it. And but
Zydeco's
yeah,
type of
like
music, right? It's a type of
yeah,
music that's particular to that area. Yeah, because I barely I only know it through the influence of that area too. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It's a type of music. When I went to jazz festival, they had like a whole section full of all different Zydeco artists. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. Like I used to love that about New Orleans for real. And so yeah, that was my first time. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm a museum junkie. Like
me
I'll go
too.
to any gallery. I
Yeah,
saw like he has pieces at the Broad in LA. I lived in LA for like a little bit. He has I saw some of his pieces in New York. I'm not sure if they were at the MoMA, but I definitely went to the MoMA, and I'm pretty sure he has pieces there. But I definitely saw his pieces in New York too. I even saw this little small gallery in Beverly Hills. They had like some of his prints on it, so I've seen that too. Yeah, I'm a junkie like for that type of stuff.
it is pretty remarkable that when you see these pieces of art in front of you, they do become so much more real. And there's you can when you actually like, oh, this literally has their DNA on it. I mean, their skin flaked off onto this, and
Like that man really painted that one.
yeah,
Like yeah.
yeah. And it's funny because I when I was younger, I got a chance to go to the Louvre in France, and I saw the Mona
Oh
Lisa, and
shit.
it was as unimpressive as people like to say it is, because it's tiny and behind glass and stuff like that. But I've never had that experience seeing. I went to this Warhol and Banksy museum in Amsterdam a few years back,
Oh
and
true.
man, it was absolutely they're just so big, and they're just so close to you, and there's just so many of them, and you're overwhelmed by it. And it felt like what it must have. It was in this kind of small house near the Van Gogh Museum over there, and it gave you probably the closest feeling what it'd be like to be in like the Warhol factory, where there was just you're overwhelmed by how much was there. It's
Oh, them prints, yeah, that's the thing too. It's kind of dope that you saw them in Amsterdam. Saw them over there because I know that they have a lot of love for the art, and especially those artists like Warhol and just them pop artist type of
yeah,
artists, and even like a little bit before that. So that's dope that you got to see that.
yeah, it
Um,
is not because I mean I would say in general, from a cultural perspective, Europeans on average may have better taste. I was engaged to somebody from the Czech Republic for like a decade, so like I got to spend some time over there, and it's like they seem to have more appreciation for things that are a little off center. And over here I think we're a lot more capitalist, and a lot more of like, well, is this going to sell to the mainstream bullshit?
mhm,
And
the pretty
yeah, and
market.
there isn't like the US when it comes to actual real cultural relevance. I don't think the US has really cranked out a ton of that in our lifetimes. And I think hip hop is probably one of the biggest cultural exports of the United States. And Basquiat clearly, as a painter, one of the biggest as well, along with Warhol. But I mean, there aren't like it's not like we could rattle off 50 of these names. I mean, because you talk about someone like Jay-Z or Biggie, we could rattle off 50 other rappers that have had a huge influence, but like there aren't that many of these other artists. Like it's truly remarkable that I mean, I think Banksy's the other one that comes to mind, but in my lifetime, there's only really a few that I think are going to have that sort of distance in them, their career or their legacy, I guess.
Yeah, that's crazy that you think about that because in my mind, as you were talking, I'm thinking about like Jackson Pollock and Rothko, but then I'm like, nah, that's actually more in the Andy Warhol school. So like thinking about more of the '80s and stuff, I could really only think of Keith Haring,
Yep,
but that
another
could be
one.
me being limited. I'm young, you know. So,
Yeah, and I'm sure there's people, others too. But like
but
his, and
still, like you're right though. It's not like a big populace that we could just easily, oh, that person, that person, that person.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's real hard. It's real, especially because a lot of art education is about teaching you the basics of, this is how you draw a face and this is how you do a sunset. It's real hard to come up with something new as a visual artist that people haven't seen before. I mean, it's like nowadays a lot of it's done in video because all of us now have the ability through After Effects to do things you can never do in your home before. But when you're talking about paint on a canvas, we're still talking about essentially the same technology that's been around since cavemen painted on walls. So to find a
Yeah.
new way to do that that's innovative is really, really, really hard. I tried. I came up with nothing. You know?
It's funny that you say that because sometimes let's say like around 2017 I got to the point where I was going to art shows and like I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be five people who paint celebrities here. It's gonna be five people who
Yeah.
do this, like, and then like some people who are doing the Basquiat type are like, and then not to knock it and everything, but it just kind of shows that we all like, yeah, it's just like, yo, it's kind of derivative of off of something more than trying to create a new. But when we do see those things that are creating the new, it's like, all right, for sure, people are still like out here. Like Murakami, to me, like he's definitely like somebody where like with his color and his character, actually one of the inspirations for me wanting to have a character for real, but like he's like pretty unique, but he's like a little older too, but still it's just kind of cool when we do find those type of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And as you say that, it makes me think that some of the ones of our generation that probably will have the lasting impacts are like Jack Kirby. If you're not familiar with him, I don't know. He was
Mhm.
he was the guy. He was basically what Stan Lee was to writing comics, Jack Kirby was to drawing comics. So he
Okay.
basically did almost any comic style you see from like the 60s and 50s and 70s was either Jack Kirby or Jack Kirby inspired. He would do this thing where he drew these really detailed scenes, but instead of starting with drawing the character, he would just start in the corner of the page and draw the whole scene like from the corner expanding out, which I tried doing that a few times. You get some wild results, but it's not easy, especially when you're someone who's being paid by the page. Like you think you'd really want to get it right. You gotta be
Yeah,
amazing.
that's crazy. That's you have to have an imagination of what you could see it as being complete first
Yeah,
before you
yeah.
start.
And I think too, a lot of what I did this project, it's funny we talked before about drawing faces. I was trying to do this. I found this photograph of Dwayne the Rock Johnson holding a koala bear that I just loved. And it was just like a great photograph, and I just saw something in it. So I decided I was going to make this big piece about it, and I did this. I kind of decoupaged like newspaper and articles and stuff in the background, and then I tried to draw and paint that over it. And every time I drew it, it looked like Barack Obama, and I was like, "What? This is driving me nuts." So I just stopped doing it, and I decided for a whole year I was going to draw a portrait every day for a year. So in like 2015, I drew 365 portraits, and I learned a few things. One is you're going to get as good as you're ever going to get by about the third month. So I probably should have quit. But like, you kind of have to learn the rules to break them to some degree.
That's very key, man. Very key.
Yeah,
No, it's funny because when you're talking about the art history too, I was like, yeah, man, it's true. All the art classes that like until my senior year, where we're taking art history and I'm learning about the Renaissance period,
yeah,
the Gothic period, the Baroque period, and all this stuff. I'm like, yo, what the heck? I've never heard of none of this stuff in my life. Like, and and like it kind of breaks you out of just pop art impressionism, abstract
Right.
expressionism. Like it breaks you of like, oh dang, and then the history of like, well, Baroque was way more elegant details, whereas Gothic was pretty dark, like, and that's kind of why the goths of these days, dressing all black,
Yeah.
that comes from something way back in the 1400s, like, like in the Renaissance period was like basically the beginnings of before they even started to do all of that. So it's kind of like you, like how you say you gotta learn, even like, and I guess when I was in college, I tried to make more opportunities to take more art history classes, like and that got me to learning about like collectives like the Stige or like the Bauhaus movement, like them people who were like you would basically see like a red, yellow, and blue. I want to say Mondrian might have been inspired by the Bauhaus movement, but you'll see like these chairs that would be like red. They basically created a whole house using just these colors, red, yellow, and blue, and everything, and then white and black, just to like and I was seeing people break out the mold way back in the past, and I think that was kind of opening my perspective, being in like maybe 2015, not even hearing about none of that. The most extreme thing is like a Basquiat, like,
Yeah.
or like going back to seeing like a Monet or a Rothko and stuff, and like actually learning about it, or learning like, oh yeah, the color, he's using the color to evoke emotion, so that probably will like train you to now like be a little bit more mindful about the colors you use, or like when I learned
Color
about like
theory is fascinating. You can learn a lot in a very short period of time studying. You can go forever doing it, but like just taking an hour to study it once will get you way further than you were.
exactly, that's what I was gonna say too. Like when I first learned about primary colors, and then I forgot them secondaries, and then just seeing like, okay, this color is directly across from that color.
Yep.
So like you can see this right here, it's probably gonna make that color pop. Like, and I've been carrying that a lot since high school, but it's like if I never knew that, I probably would have never done that. So that kind of goes back to like you gotta know the rules to be able to try to break them. And
Right.
yeah.
And just the emotion that comes with each color and just how easy it is to kind of, because in some ways I kind of like in doing a painting and doing a drawing almost like a magic trick, because you're essentially taking nothing and creating something out of it, and you're trying to like magically make somebody feel something. And
Hmm.
a lot of times if you don't start off with a preconceived notion, you don't know what you're going to feel when you see it at the end. But after you've done that a bunch of times, then you start having a better control over like, oh, like this will kind of lead in this direction. Then you go too far and you're making propaganda posters. But it is really amazing how much you can influence somebody with just an image.
Yeah,
I,
that's true. And it's kind of funny that you talk about that, because when I was seeing these Basquiat things, I was like, man, this man uses a lot of symbols too. And that was another thing that intrigued me, because I used to like I used to like things like the Illuminati, and seeing like,
yeah.
oh, what's this eye? Like, and then seeing, oh, it's a whole thing, like, in the whole wormhole, and just like look like kind of understanding the nature of symbols and where they came from, and like subconscious meanings of something that you would just basically blatantly see, and just kind of that would be teaching me to like look above the surface and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, and because great art rewards you the more you look at it too. Like, I think everybody's gone back to watch a movie that they saw when they're in high school and realized that it sucked. And then there's the exact opposite of when you go back and you see something you've never seen in it before. Like, this is kind of a lame example, but this movie Eyes Wide Shut, it was Stanley Kubrick's last movie, and it came out when I was in film school, and I must have seen it 20 or 30 times, and I watched it 2 months ago and I saw something I've never seen before. And that's what you strive for.
It's like the Lil Wayne verse.
Which
Every
one?
time you listen to that, you're gonna hear
Oh
some.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Concept was the one who put me on a little. I had a thing with Lil Wayne for years where I couldn't get into him, and I'm a huge hip hop. I mean, I'm a rapper too. I'm a huge hip hop head. For some reason, I wasn't. I think I was playing the wrong stuff, but I kept seeing people like Royce the 5'9" being like, he's in my top five, and I'm like, okay, then I must be missing something because like I trust him. And then, but Concept, I think I forget what album he told me to check out, and I listened to it one day when I was riding my bike, and I'm like, okay, yep, I'm on board now. But
Yeah, that's what's up.
yeah.
That's what's up. Yeah,
Took me a long
growing
time
up,
with Cameron too. He was the other one that it took me a long time to come around to. I'm like, oh, where have you been my whole life?
I felt like for me, Lil Wayne was like the God MC growing up.
Yeah,
Like it was crazy. People in DC having dreads just because of Lil Wayne. Hey, I'm
yeah.
about to turn my light on real quick.
All right, go for it.
Just it's getting a little dark.
All right, cool.
But yeah,
Uh, that's
that's
actually we're talking. So you've mentioned a bunch of places that you've lived. What have the different art scenes been like in those different areas of the country? Like, how are they different? Where what do you
uh,
find most inspirational? Like, I don't know. What do you got?
that's interesting that you talk about that because that's something that when I go to these different places, I like definitely try to see the differences. But when I went to New Orleans, let's say that was the first place that I lived that was different. There are I saw like people doing art on like a piece of granite, like a granite slab, and selling it outside the quarter, and just seeing people more so selling art outside, and like people doing art that's more so celebrating like the touristy like thing that they know that people are coming to see, like people are coming to see their city, so they're mastering painting their city.
Right.
That was something that I really saw, like going walking on Julia Street, and even yeah, just all throughout, like I'm not gonna say Bourbon, but like throughout Canal Street, you'll see these galleries that all have like new art of actual New Orleans.
Because
That
New
was
Orleans
cool.
just has so many like this the images come to your mind instantly of like the
Yeah,
trees
exactly.
and the building the Louis Armstrong era and there's
I
so
was
much
gonna say them
vivid
jazz
stuff. Yeah,
characters too. Yep.
yeah. There's such vivid imagery from that area.
And that was that. And then when I went to LA, it was exactly what you would think, like the sleek movie
Yep.
advertisement posters everywhere, and it's like big colors. Like I saw that, and that would really stood out though. Like it wasn't like something that was just, it really stood out. And even just like some of the art, like I would say, yeah, I guess I kind of saw some of the bright colored art being in California. And then I want to say when I took a trip up to San Francisco, it was kind of funny because I forgot this guy's name. I think it's Thurbold or something, but he does these big pieces that are like if it's like a piece of ice cream, it's like really bright blue, really bright pinks, and like really it looks like you can taste it. And it kind of reminded me of the Andy Warhol pop art type of era feel, but just a new spin on it. It kind of told me like, yo, y'all like knew about that, but y'all also were masters of art. So like you guys brought it, and then kind of back to the LA's type stuff too, the movie type thing, the Candy Girl, beat like I feel like that beach culture, the Beach Boys. I
Yeah.
always think of that when I think of California. And like I think that when I see the art, I could kind of see that present in it too sometimes. And this guy also has like these big pieces of like these big hills and tall streets, and that's very true about San Francisco. It's like when you're walking on these streets, you're like, man, yeah, I'm hiking up this big hill. That's the reason why some
Yeah.
people don't even go to San Francisco, and it's like 10 minutes away, like because of these hills. So it's kind of funny seeing that in the art. So yeah, that's and then I can't not talk about Oakland too. Oakland, it kind of brought me back to like thinking about the New Orleans local art scene culture, where like I'm not trying to say people doing with what they have, but it's like given the means of the situation of the city, artists are thriving. So like whether it's graffiti or just a lot of self-taught artists and stuff. So that's cool too. Yep.
Oakland's always felt like sort of like kind of the soul of California, because like I've been to LA a bunch, I've been to San Francisco. LA I'm sort of pretty mixed on, because it's like it's a pain in the ass to get around everywhere, and there's like I don't know, there's it's San Francisco is amazing, but I mean Oakland produces a lot of good art, a lot of good hip hop, like
Yeah, the artists that come out of here, it's funny.
yeah, a lot of good punk. Um, it's fortunately can't keep the Raiders there for too long, but maybe you'll get them back someday. I don't know.
I mean, to me, it's kind of like the tell of every city that's like that. It's like it always generates like great art, but like because of maybe the infrastructure of the city and like the history, like it's always having its own little battles. And
Right.
I guess it's kind of crazy because I've lived in New Orleans and Oakland, and to me, I kind of see a similar narrative. And I mean, I'm from DC too. Like I'm from Maryland, really, but I've my aunt even like had a shop across from Howard University, so I've always been in and out of DC. I like went to school in DC too for middle school, so like I've and spending weekends. So I saw that similar narrative even there where the White House is. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. The area around the White House has gone through a lot of changes over the years. It's yeah, it's DC is a strange city,
yeah,
but
it's just interesting, but
I
it's cool that how you keep kind of mentioning punk too.
yeah, because I
I
love a
didn't
lot of
even know.
DC punk. I love like Fugazi and Minor Threat and all that shit. That's what my brain was going to.
It's funny how you know about that, bro. I didn't know nothing about that. Like
Oh, word.
somebody in New Orleans, like was like, "Hey, bro, check out this documentary about the Bad Brains," and I'm like, "All right,
Yes.
bro." And like, yeah, I checked that out. I'm like, "Yo, they from DC." And then
Yeah.
I see dude has a North Face coat on while he's doing all that stuff. I'm like, "Oh, he's definitely from DC." That's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I never knew nothing about that.
Yeah, there's lots of good DC music, DC like punk and hardcore music. It's I don't know. I've unfortunately never got to go to any shows down there. I've only ever been there for just like lame like work reasons, but it's a cool city.
Yeah, but
So you do a little music too, don't you?
yeah, I'm also into music. Yep.
I checked out some of your tracks. I asked "Don't You" as if I hadn't already listened to a bunch of your music.
It's all good. It's for
Yeah.
the people.
So what got you into because I'm someone myself that I don't like just working in one media. I like doing music. I like doing whatever. It's just whatever, however I want to express myself that day. What got you into doing music? Did that come after doing art, or where does that fit into your creative journey?
Yeah, I'll say that that definitely came after doing art, but around the same time. So like in elementary school, I'm more so drawing and stuff. But then also in the elementary school, I started meeting my friends who like they would come over my house and Anthony, especially, he would show me like a lot of like Lil Wayne deep cuts like Leather So Soft or Me and My Drink. And I'm like in elementary school, like hearing about this and then like they would kind of we would kind of be like freestyling sometimes or like that's kind of when we found out about like, oh, you can type in instrumental after the song on
Yeah,
YouTube and then you have a whole beat. So we would just be like going on sound pushing like sound recorder on Windows and like having the mic by the speaker and just rapping like on our Friday nights and like recording it. So like and that was probably like around fifth grade. So like ever since then I've been on that journey. Even to where like Anthony sometimes would hang out with my family and like we'll go to North Carolina and one time we went to Radio Shack to try to buy a mic and the dude who's selling us a mic he's like, oh, y'all rap. And like we're probably like in sixth grade or something at this
yeah.
time and this man's like, yeah, y'all rap or whatever. You're like, we're like, yeah. And he's like, man, I got a record label, man, and here's a beat CD. And he gave us a CD of beats and
Oh
like
wow.
even on that beat tape, we got like we started to formulate a group at while this time was going on. Like me, Mike, Anton, Anthony, Nemo, Nino, Emer, and Devon, and Ronte. and even my homie Davon in Virginia. So like we started to like we all were into this, and I remember me and Ronte got this song called "Oh Bait" because he would be coming over my house too, and he actually would be playing Pokemon. So that's why he would be coming over my house and everything. So like we made "Oh Babe." We got a song called "Put Me on Your Top" because that was back when MySpace came out.
Oh,
So like we were like, so even since then, it's just been a continuation of like what's already been going on. Yeah. And
yeah.
putting myself in direction to continue to achieve that goal. Yeah.
What do you get out of making music that you may not get out of doing the other art? Like, is there an element of that that you find particularly appealing or that's different?
Yeah. So that's the thing with music. I can actually tell my actual story. With art, I don't think that I can tell that. I can tell like snippets of it. You can see that I like this. You can see that I'm kind of inspired by this. And these things that you may kind of can only hear me talk about in the music, but in the music I can tell you about like yo the times, like I can tell you about them times when we was making music and stuff, or like I can tell you how we got to this point. I and I love that. I love that. And then also you don't have to know me to be able to feel kind of what I'm trying to say in the music. Whereas like sometimes in the art, I used to be very abstract with my art. Honestly, like used to, and definitely with that Basquiat inspiration, and with the abstract art, you couldn't really, I had to really tell somebody, oh yeah, you know, I was thinking about this and that and that. But it's
Right.
like, bro, if I'm dead and gone, you ain't never
Yeah.
gonna know what that piece is about. Like,
I
so
went through the same phase. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's kind of like really it. Like, I love that's I like that you asked me that question because I never thought about that.
So what are you working on anything new now?
Yeah, so currently with these well, I would say right now I've had like a, let's say I had an art show this week and I had another art show like 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to get these characters more into the public and in the spaces that I'm inhibiting in Oakland and the SF, trying to just make my stamp in these local spaces that I've kind of already done in other cities in the past. So like that's my goal with the art. But with music, I'm working on this project called Thank God for Food Stamps. Basically, it's all produced by a producer named Laudestro. And how I met this guy, he would be sending me emails or whatever of his beats. And then I basically hit him up that I wanted them. And then he asked me where, or I think I asked him where he was from, because I like to work with people and also see where this is at, because that also is kind of like a assessment of where my reach is getting to now.
Mhm.
And he happened to say, yo, I'm from Oxon Hill, Maryland. And I was like, yo, what? And I'm from Oxon Hill. So like that was really dope that like, yo, I'm outside of I'm not even in Maryland and able to work with this guy. So like that
That's
was more
awesome.
motivation to keep rapping on his beats.
Yeah.
And so I'll say like this past year, like 2022 and 2022, I rapped on a lot of Loud Destro beats. And at the end of it, he around Black Friday, he was like, yo, y'all, like just want to let y'all know I'm about to do a release beat deal. All the beats that I've been sending all year, plus a couple new, are gonna be available for 150 and everything. And for me, it was a hassle to having to be like, dang, bro, I know I rapped on like hella this dude's beats and I like these songs. I want to put them out, but I now gotta have the investment.
Yeah.
And him doing that, it's like, dang, bro, opened up 166 beats basically for 150. And I was inspired to just say, all right, let me just use some of these for a tape. And so that's kind of where the genesis of Thank God for Food Stamps came from. And then yeah.
When do you think that's going to be? Is that out now or is that coming out soon?
uh nah, it's so it is coming out soon. I don't want to say like within the next 2 months, but I will say that I've recorded every song One song, Diamonds, I'm kind of now debating if I want to put it on the project, because it's a little different, but that, and then just awaiting verses, and then just kind of, I'm gonna be in my mixing phase right now. But one thing, I've released so much music that at this point I know that I need to have a rollout where maybe have launch a video before I drop this joint, like maybe have like photos that I know that I don't have to, like, while I already dropped the project, now try to do the photo run. Like, how about I just already get all that taken care of? And while I'm in this time, I'm also making new music. But my main focus is to ultimately drop Thank God for Food Stamps. And it's 2023, which is 10 years since I've been releasing music on SoundCloud. So I'm also releasing a project called Thank God for SoundCloud, which is to commemorate the fact that, like, without SoundCloud, I would not have been able to release all of the music that I've released up to this point. And I do release on Spotify as well, but SoundCloud was just like a open doors policy, and it's like, yo, I clearly I'm doing this for the love of it. I don't want the money right now. It's just, can y'all hear me out? And because I've been doing that for 10 years now, I've been seeing the rewards looking back on it. So thank God for SoundCloud is something that after I recorded most of those for Thank God for Food Stamps, I've been kind of building up Thank God for SoundCloud, and some of those, I'm like recording a verse, and then if I have a open verse, I'll send it out to different people, like, in who've been on my journey. And definitely, like, some people who, like, if you're in the Dolawan community, you will probably know about them and everything. So I'm trying to do that just to now encapsulate, showing people, yo, I'm not just me. It's all of us. And that's what so I've been kind of like working on that. Thank God for SoundCloud, and then just recording a couple, like, inspirations, just because, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm at this point where I know I'm gonna release Thank God for Food Stamps, but it's like I already got the project good, so let me just try to, like how we talk about Basquiat has 2,000 pieces of artworks, and even like Picasso, I'm pretty sure he's at like 7K to 10K or something.
Yeah.
So I'm knowing that if I can continue recording and putting my journey in these songs, no matter who hears them, they're still going to be here and everything. And yeah, so that's kind of what I'm really working on right now, and showing people on Instagram these songs, showing them that they're real and everything, but not really caring too much about that, just more so the creation of the art, and connecting to real people. Yep.
Yeah, that's huge, man. It's I just got back into music the past few years, and it's for a lot of those same reasons, is that I felt that for a lot of my life I didn't wasn't expressing who I was, and then that gave me the opportunity to finally do that. And when I did and started releasing it, I was like, oh, why did I stop doing this? Or why didn't I feel like I could do this when I used to? Because I used to be in hip hop groups like in the early 2000s, and I quit for like 10 years and started in the pandemic again. But like that instantly came back to me. I was like, oh, this is what I missed about this, is the connection to people. And
Yeah, that's dope. That throughout the pandemic, you found even deeper connection with people. That's kind of interesting.
yeah,
And
yeah. You think it'd be the opposite, but you know.
yeah,
It's funny when you said waiting on verses. I think I felt a little part of me die inside, because that is sort of the worst part of making a thing, is that like waiting on verses for me is painstaking. Yeah, because and it's like it's funny because I've been trying to write this a couple verses that I'm working on now for the past like month, and I'm just not getting anywhere. And then I'm like, but when someone else is supposed to owe me a verse, I'm just like sitting here like tapping my desk. Like,
yeah.
just you're a professional, just do this. But I don't
It's
know. It's
funny. Yeah, like that thing is kind of like has driven me to be like, yo, all right, instead, because I tend to have a vision. I come from like the mixtape era of, like, from Lil Wayne to, like, now Currency to Wiz Khalifa to, like, all these people, and even to Kendrick Lamar's and
yeah,
Schoolboy Q's, people putting out concept bodies of work, J. Cole's, and like I come from that a string of cloth. So when I envision a project, I'm like, yo, maybe I want a woman on this project. Like, I want a woman on this song specifically, and like probably I know who she is, so I send it, and like and I really will want to get that to be released. Or sometimes I'll be like, yo, I want my dude Devon Cassell's, because me and him really came up with the Rebel Camp stuff, so I'm gonna send it to him. And yeah, like it'll be a waiting thing, but I know like because I want that vision, it's like, yo, I gotta feed the streets with some other stuff. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's kind of where it's like, all right, let me just make some other things. So I'm not like really feeling reliant. And then also my base, they actually don't even have to know that all that's going on. Like, so it kind of like eases some of the pressure. Well, I try to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. So who are, yeah, I mean, you just rattle off a bunch of the best MCs from the past, you know, few 20 years.
Yeah, 10, 15, 20. Yeah.
What were your earliest memories of rap?
Man, my earliest memory, it's funny, I was thinking about this. Maybe the hard knock life song. It's a hard knock life
Life
for
for
us.
us.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
I want to say I remember my brother when we was in North Carolina, he was saying that hip hop, hip
Hop,
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 and
we
I
won't
never
stop
heard
rocking.
nobody say that. And I heard him and my mom. My mom was like, "Nah, it's hip hop, hip hop, and don't stop the rock to the beat." Like my mom was getting it, and he was
Yeah.
trying to learn it. I'm like, "Yo, what?" And like it's always been around. And then yeah, just things like that. And then by the point where my homie is introducing me to the Lil Wayne, I'm already tapped in type shit. I'm like loving the radio and like
Yeah.
going down south and being like, yo, I'm hearing songs earlier. Like when I would
Yeah.
go to North Carolina, I would hear songs, and then maybe 2-3 months later, I would hear them. I would hear them in Maryland.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a crazy time because radio isn't like that anymore because the same company owns like every radio station. So they just play the same shit everywhere. And it's like, I mean, because I remember some of my earliest memories were listening to a small college station that had one of the best hip hop in Boston. Emerson College had a great hip
Okay.
hop show that was on most nights, and it was like there was nowhere else in 1991 I was going to hear, Pete Rock and CL Smooth and like Intelligent Hoodlum and all this stuff on the radio, really anywhere. And it's just it's that stuff's gone. I mean, obviously the internet's there. I guess I don't know. It was a different time, but it was a godsend for me. I mean, just the idea, like the radio when I was a kid was the only outlet I had to the outside world. We didn't have cable. We like had like 5 channels and rabbit ears, but the radio was the only place where my world got any bigger because I came from a very small town. And
And you say you were 17?
well, I was born in '79, so I mean, I might be thinking back to even like I guess it was '91. I was more like 10 or 11.
Man, it's interesting because I like watch them documentaries, so it's cool to see that like dang, it really was people listening to just when that
Yeah,
channel came on, and phew,
and it's
that
like
shit
I
quick
mean,
hour.
I came from. I mean, I had a graduating class of maybe 88 kids, and you could probably count the number of people that weren't white on one hand. So it was basically like you listen to Metallica or you got made fun of to some degree. And so when I found anyone else who knew anything about rap music, it was the most amazing thing because I'm like it was almost like we were comparing notes. You're like,
Mhm.
oh, you found a hip hop radio video show that's on at 2 in the morning on channel 38. Can you tape it for me? And it's just like that's where I think I found one of my first communities in life was through hip hop and through, I mean, it was more the love of hip hop and we
Yeah,
weren't
I could
actually
say
even
the
doing it.
same too. Like when you find those people, it's like, oh, you're putting me on to something. Or
Yeah,
like I remember in study hall, me and my homie would go to like HD mixtapes and like download a lot of music, and then we would just share each other like, oh man, you heard this one though? Like,
yeah, yeah. Oh man, I got back into doing that for my girlfriend this year for Christmas. I actually made her a cassette mixtape
oh
made
shoot.
up of all my old cassette mixtapes. It was like all these like songs that I taped off of like that college radio station in like 1991 that I then made a modern tape for her with it. Um,
Man,
I think I was more like doing it for myself, but like
some nostalgia in there, but you still that's cool though.
Yeah, but I mean that's some of my happiest childhood memories revolve around hip hop and just the small community I was able to grow around it.
Yeah, I would say, man, when I was in high school, I read this book about like the hip hop poetics or the poetics of hip hop or something, and like that's when the writer started to talk about Nas and Lauryn Hill in hip hop, and
Yeah,
it kind of got me to start asking my mom, "Hey, mom, what stuff were you listening to when you came up with?" And she like told me about like a Tribe Called Quest, Black Moon, like all these different people, De La Soul and even De La Soul, I heard them on a video game, and I used to always love that type of music. And but I would just be like, it's old school. But
yeah,
when my mom told me this, it gave me like more access to that world that I felt like was kind of hidden. And it's kind of funny because around this time, that's when Joey Badass came out, and like he was starting to rap on like with more boom bappy sound.
yeah,
And man,
yeah. I like him.
yeah, man, it's like, yo, that's crazy. I was finding out about CL Smooth and all them P Rock at the same time finding out about Joey Badass. And
Yeah,
that was helping me like, yeah, it
man,
was like another yeah.
it's that's one thing that's funny about because I'm like I'm in that era of hip hop, and when drums started disappearing in hip hop a little bit and they started being faded to the background, I'm like, wait a minute, where are you going with those? And like I never really got that. It was I told Concept it was some of his music that the drums aren't as central to his production that sort of helped me kind of get my mind around why that stuff can be dope, and I because I love his stuff, but like
Yeah.
yeah, I whenever I hear somebody modern who still has the I'm like, yeah, give me that all day.
Yeah, it's the essence,
Yeah,
man.
it is. So you mentioned what are some of your favorite museums that you've been to? Just for anybody who might be traveling or might be going to any of these cities, what are ones that you might
Man,
recommend?
I'll tell y'all like if you ever go to Dallas, there's a hidden like you never know. It's so many Andy Warhol, Jackson Pollocks in Dallas for sure. And then try to like look outside and see where they're at like within that area. My favorite in LA, the Broad, it's a free museum that you can go in and you'll see like a lot of these contemporary artists that we know of like Lichtenstein. You'll see the Basquiat. I want to say they have like yeah, they have so many artists in there. Murakami, they have a couple of his pieces in there, and then just even other artists. And yeah, and then definitely when you're in New York, see the MoMA, and then I want to say it's that new one downtown. I think it's the brand, but it's a new one downtown that's really nice. Yeah, the MoMA, it's like probably 7 floors, and they have one floor just dedicated to Picasso sculptures. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. So yeah,
So it's funny, you mentioned moving around a lot. How much do you think that influenced, your because obviously you're leaving people behind when you leave, but you're taking your art with you. Was there how did that play into your development as an artist?
that's the funny thing that I think about a lot. But let's say when I was in DC, that was when I first started kind of performing at shows and like I actually had my first club performance when I was like 17 in DC at the Velvet Lounge. So like I was starting to get that access, but then when I did, I had to like wrench and I'll say I wasn't really it wasn't like DC was messing with me. It was just rare opportunities that I was attaining. Whereas like when I got to New Orleans, it seemed like it was more people actually like being like, "Oh, who is this dude?" and like seeing me perform and like actually connecting the thing that I kind of would have wanted to see for myself when I was coming up in DC. I was starting to see in New Orleans. And because of the development of Instagram and all that, the people who had been following me from high school had been seeing me do the stuff in DC too. So like when I would come back home, like I would be meeting new people who would start to like be seeing that too. So I was like, all right, well, now I have a DC and New Orleans base. But I kind of was seeing it like that, but kind of not because Instagram wasn't really what we know it for today. It wasn't really like that
Wasn't a good
until
tool for music. It wasn't
2017.
really a great tool for music in the beginning.
Yeah, but I'll say that didn't stop us from like the people I was with from like utilizing it for music and like showing our face when we're performing or putting flyers up. But I'll say the one time that it really hit me was when I moved to Jacksonville to live with my aunt. And it was funny because this dude had been following me like NXY.ZZ or something. And I reached out to him for like a photo shoot. And like, yeah, we did this photo shoot. And he was like, yeah, bro, I'll be seeing all that stuff that y'all be doing in New Orleans. And I was like, what? Like, you're in Florida, like you're in Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not famous. Like, you know, I'm not like I think I'm building something, but for him to stamp it was like, all right, this is definitely happening. Like, let's keep like that's when I started kind of being more attentive to put in the location. Like, yeah, bro, like, cause you may have met me in New Orleans, but I'm not in New Orleans no more. So
Yeah.
get that off your mind. I'm in LA now. And like get that off your mind. I'm in Oakland right now. Like, you know, and like even showing when I'm going back and forth. And I'll say that when I got to LA, it was kind of funny because I started seeing people from my DMV journey coming to travel to LA, starting to see people from New Orleans traveling to LA or living in LA. Because I went to college in New Orleans, so some of the people I went to college with also moved to LA before me, and like some moved after. And I was like, all right, this is cool because now like that you guys are coming here, meeting with me, y'all still probably making the pilgrimage back to where I once was. So you
Yeah.
can probably spread the story and everything. And like of what just happened or whatever. And it's not like I'm like, yo, bro, create this narrative. It's
Right.
just like I always study hip hop. I know this happens, you know, and like I just be mindful while this is happening. Or like I remember when I found out like this girl Marisa lived in LA and she speaks Spanish. So I got her on this song and she's rapping in Spanish and everything, but she also went to school with me. And like people don't even know about that song because I haven't put it out. But it's like imagine in the future when I do, and they were like, "Oh dang, like that's crazy."
Yeah.
And I've been kind of like I guess that of these people traveling back and forth, and then me also when I travel to these spaces, I kind of connect with people who I've met with who I've known in the past, and that kind of goes back to. It's funny, I just saw a concept 2 weeks ago, and so he was in the studio and he brought his people from San Antonio with him. I also invited one of my friends to the studio and he went to high school with me, but he lives in LA. So like it continues to
Yeah.
bring this to life. Yeah.
It's sort of like you went on like a tour, like did like a tour across the country, but you did it really slowly, like,
Yeah.
and you just like have time to like really get settled in each city and go, all right, well, don't forget about me because I'm still moving on. But I mean, that's awesome. I'm sure you pick up so much along the way too. And it is funny. I think it's a good reminder too that every city really culturally is very different, and crowds in different cities are very different. And it's just a reminder that the people that if they're discouraged about what's happening in the open mic in their own town, there is a much bigger world out there. And like the people that are at you have to get out and see as much of it as possible and perform in front of as many different crowds as possible, big, large, different things. And that's the way you're going to develop as an artist.
Look, Master P, everybody knows him for like selling mixtapes out the trunk, but they don't know like this man was from New Orleans, lived in the Bay, and then like connected with hella people in the Bay, like people who are already on the scene and saw what they were doing was like, oh yeah, let's that works.
Yeah.
Like let's continue to cultivate this. Then went back to his hometown and like got them to be on the same stuff and like now he has Cali and the South, you know. And then when Bowdy comes out,
Yeah.
now this opportunity for like all these random people who don't know about Master P in real life, they only know this song. Like now they can spread it to all their friends in Cali. Like and they're some of their friends probably from Arizona. So like now
Yeah.
it hits. Like and they don't know he also in the meantime selling them CDs out the trunk. He would be going to different cities and it's like you can meet like 15 people in each city that you go to and now you have a minor base that you can probably come back and do a show. Like and I kind of started to see that around like 2017, like and just like connecting. I started connecting with people who I knew in different cities. Like me and Concept and this other dude Taylor, we all linked up when we went to Colorado and like shot a video and everything. And that was dope because it's like, bro, I met Concept in New Orleans and I don't live there no more, but we still connected. And he lived in Maryland too. So yeah, it just kind of all connects.
That Master P example, that's a good one because it sort of explains something too. But when Master P was when No Limit was really out and going hard, they were releasing so many albums and they were all selling a ton. And it was almost like you would never see an independent hip hop label that would put out that much music and get that sort of response. And what you just said definitely explains it, is that he had done the groundwork to make sure that when he went national with his music, the people were ready to buy it, you know.
Yeah, and that's basically it, man. Cause as I've been going around, it's like yeah, like it's some people in New Orleans that like, let's say me and my roommate is also from New Orleans. We know they good. They out there in New Orleans though. Like like it's not like somebody in LA. Like if I mention their name, it's not. I'm not trying to knock it. Like it is those rare. Like last time I was in LA, I saw somebody wearing one of my somebody I know shirts and everything. But it's not like the average person I just meet on the street is gonna know, hey, if I say this name, they're gonna know who that
Right.
person is. And so like it's like how do you make that happen? Like, and that's kind of what I've always thought of as I've been traveling. But I've only seen that as a result of traveling.
Right. And it's like you have to be kind of relentless because there are people that are on like, national, like on like an NBC sitcom at like 8 o'clock, and they can walk through an airport and no one's going to notice them because it's like there's so many people now. It's like it's what it takes. It's like there's way more celebrities than there used to be, but like, I could be sitting next to on a plane some guy that's hosted 900 episodes of an HGTV show that I've never seen and I have no idea. It's like, you know,
Exactly. It's like how do you stick out, especially when somebody say like, "Oh, I got 20K people looking at me," but it's like, bro, what does that mean though?
yeah,
Like, because are they all like actually interacting and involved with you every single day, telling the people about you every day? Because if it's 20 people, 20K people, even 2,000 people, like telling people about you every day, that's
right.
definitely gonna make you one of those household names because it's gonna only continue. It's like the law of exponential growth, and that's something that I definitely I see that I see how that's played out in hip hop, but only because we are at the time where I can watch a documentary and see like this artist journey, that artist journey, see how they
Yeah.
connect. Like even Master P was on Tupac tour, son. So like that's again you that's why you kind of rose above these other artists who were also doing what you were doing, but it's just a little snippet of history that you gotta like. I don't know. I just kind of like I just try. I think that that's pretty important if that's what you want though. Like if you want to actually be a um I don't know. I'm not trying to say you got to be an industry artist, but still, like, if you like, to me, I do want people in Paris to be listening to like me and
Right.
Concept songs. Like, I want that.
Well,
Like,
now
so
we live in an age where you can be a successful independent artist without really having to be in the industry. It's like, without having to like have like a major label or anything like that. Because what do they even do for you? It's if you can be creative enough about getting your own with the word out there and meeting people, doing it like face to face with people like you guys do is an amazing way to do it. And that's something a lot of people wouldn't bother to do. That gives you a leg up. Like I was talking to someone else about how like there's like a pyramid of like the bottom is like everybody who calls himself a rapper, which you don't even have to like buy a microphone to call yourself a rapper, and then above
yeah,
that's the level of people who's ever written a song, and there's people who've ever gotten on stage and ever gotten paid to be on stage. And as you go up, the pyramid gets smaller. And what happens is like the longer you go at it, the more other people just give up. And
yeah,
if and it's like and you just not giving up and actually doing the work to meet the people face to face. Like one person that you're talking about that actually will spread the word about you is worth 1,000 people hitting a follow button if they don't actually care about you. And
Yes,
so many
exactly.
people spend the time trying to get those 1,000 people instead of making that one connection. It's I think what you
Hey,
guys are
trust.
doing makes a lot of sense.
I used to live in that because again, I like went to high school when Instagram came out, and like seeing other people popping, I'm like, dang, bro, like you have to be like a blog got to post you, a blog got
Right.
to talk about you for you to be on or whatever. And then when I'm in New Orleans, starting to have the Dolawan thing to where like other people are spreading this, and like I'm at a show, and I remember I said something about Dolawan, and when I got off stage, bro, it's like, oh, so you're the infamous Dolawan. I'm like, bro, I never met you in my life, bro. But now I know his name, Calamity, you know,
Yeah.
shout out to you. But still, it's like, how did you know about me without me putting in that minor energy? And that's kind of what you're saying. It's that one person who probably showed or put it out there. And that's really valuable. It's just that in maybe your era and the era that was before my time as an actual artist, you didn't see these interactions going on, and like maybe as an artist I'm able to see it, so I'm willing to vocalize it and just let people know, yo, it's about these hand-to-hand connections. But like but yeah, I just think, yeah, it's just kind of, you're right, like as a, like in this era you can really be doing your thing, and it doesn't really, you don't have to have a label really, is unless especially like a label, if you look at it, sometimes they're just funding you the money, and like
Right.
I'm not
They're
trying to
giving you
take
a
everything.
loan. So they're
Yeah,
essentially giving you a
exactly.
loan, and it's yeah, it's absurd. I mean,
Yeah,
they're giving you a loan and probably a car that you don't actually own. So
yeah.
actually, I'm gonna
It's
write
like you
that
can dress
rhyme.
the
That might
parts.
go into a song.
Yeah, but that's it. That's basically yeah, that's my look on everything. I study the game to play the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man. All right, man. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Any parting thoughts you want to leave us with here? Anything that we didn't miss on that we didn't hit on that you want to talk about, or
Well, yeah, I'll just man, I guess I can say that if you guys happen to like keep in tune with me throughout this year, I'm gonna try to continue developing this character, and I will be doing like more like merchandise drops with Dola One. Like along with the papers, we have like our hats and like other physical products, and I'm wanting to do like just reach out with more of the artists that are within my community, because at the end of the day, like how Basquiat and Fab Five Freddy, all those other people that you talked about that I may not know of, that because their thing didn't touch me necessarily, like we can do that right now, and like and especially we don't have to do that and say that we're doing that for a clout or doing that for fame. We could just do that because this is what we're passionate about, and like I feel like yeah, I just feel like it's a lot of power in letting y'all know that we can actually do this right now, because I'm kind of seeing, like I've happened to see a lot of my friends become in a space that I would call it successful, whether it's like Tyler the Creator retweeting somebody, and I randomly see it while I'm on the timeline, seeing my friend
yeah,
on like, you know, like so I'm just saying we can actually do this. It's just continue like collaborating and celebrating each other while we're here, and like actually get taking time to understand each other's art, because
yes,
yeah, it's just really that's probably how we can also just talk about it to the next person too. Maybe we may like somebody's stuff so much, but we just don't have the tools to be able to like to articulate about it. So, you know, yeah, that's the one thing. And I'm gonna continue doing that, especially like this year. And that's something that people may know me to do. But I'm gonna continue doing it for sure.
it's funny. That's sort of one of the reasons I started this podcast is that I found that I didn't have enough time to talk to artists and I wasn't being introduced to new stuff. So I figured if I had people pick a topic, that would force me almost like homework to like, homework you like doing, but like to actually learn stuff that was outside of what I was into. Like I knew Basquiat, but like I've learned so much more about him in the past week. And it's like, that's a gift to me. And then having the opportunity to talk to somebody like you who has totally different perspective and experiences from me is like that enriches my whole experience of working on art. So I really appreciate you being on.
Yeah, no problem. And I appreciate this. And shout out to Concept. Keep
Dope
doing your thing,
concept.
bro. Like
Yeah.
honestly, that man one day he found me on Instagram and was like, "Hey bro, do you I want to link with you, get some papers." And then he was like, "Do you want to set up at this event?" And that started my whole thing of meeting so many creative people in New Orleans and going to different shows and doing all this type of stuff. So really shout out to you, bro. Like, and I want
Yeah.
the world to continue knowing that no matter where we at, bro. This not Instagram no more, bro. Like this real life. Like, and I want you to have your flowers, bro. Like,
Yeah, man.
uh,
It's funny, like I know there's only 24 hours in my day. I don't know how many hours are in Concept's day. Because like no matter when I message him, he writes me back in like 2 minutes. And he seems like I just keep seeing these flyers go up, and I'm like, "You doing that show too? You doing that show too?" And I'm just like, I'm tired just looking at it.
yeah,
I'm just
that
so
man
impressed
worked
by
us.
all you guys. And it's like I'm so happy to start to work with you guys on different things. And it's been a great experience. It's very inspiring. So
It's nice meeting you,
you as well, man.
and yeah, and I guess I'll say, man, just keep leading the culture. It seems really into so many different things, and I'll stay tuned.
I appreciate it, man. All right, peace.
Yeah, yeah. I think we getting to a point in our life where we at an equal balance of things, you know. We got like everything we want, and we also got everything we don't want. It's an equilibrium. You heard me? Yeah. Never reached a point where you too smart to learn. Wouldn't be a dready snoop without the flag and perm. Banging east side, smoking on the best high. Wouldn't be me if it wasn't for that west high. Wouldn't be me if it wasn't for that too short. Really feel like Biggie on that plane I took to New York. Smoke a blunt on Usher Ave just to watch the time pass. Think about New Orleans like my nigga, fuck a wine glass. Confidence high and my ends all low. Need you around cause you helped me quote. When it went down, seem you need me most. I'm alright, I'm just scared of ghosts. If I call you gang, that just mean we close. Old time, we like free my foe. Wrote that down, you could quote my bro. He a living legend, if you know, you know. Rest in peace, your melodies, that's on my soul. Memories we shared, don't no one know. Think about it all while on this road. Give a fuck about the fame when my whole team goes. Want my girl, but you get no go. Up all night, we smoke, we smoke.